The very first lecture in this technical session is the evolvement of the special economic zones as a tool for economic growth. The anniversary lecture is to be delivered by no less a person than the former Minister of Defense, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and the man who laid the foundation for the modern day Abuja Chamber of Commerce whilst he held sway as the Director General Abuja Chamber of Commerce, Prince Adetokunbo Kayode, SAN. He is an international arbitrator and tax expert. Prince Kayode is a multifaceted federal cabinet minister who has served in various ministries. And as a leading corporate and business lawyer, tax expert, and international arbitrator, he has achieved the highest honor as a senior advocate of Nigeria in life bencher and is a recipient of Nigerian national honors of the Commander of the Order of the Niger CON. He has also been honored by the Republic of Liberia with the National Honors of the Distinguished Service Order DSO of Liberia, a fellow of a Chartered Institute of Arbitration United Kingdom, a Chartered Institute of Mediators and Consulators of Nigeria, and the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. He has business interests and investments in skills development, mining, power distribution, agriculture, and hospitality, with special focus on foreign direct investments, especially special economic zones and industrial development. He chairs various national bodies and was recently asked to chair the business development group of a newly instituted African Business Council. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our guest lecturer at this 30th anniversary celebration of the Free Economic Zone Scheme of Nigeria. Let's please welcome with me Prince Adetokunbo Kayode, SAN. Can we make that applause for him a lot louder than that as it comes up? We'll take the lecture, after which we'll be introducing the discussants to then take their seats directly behind the guest lecturer. Can we hear that applause for him one more time as it takes us through this lecture? You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I think we don't use MCs anymore. We call it, what do you call them? Directors of ceremonies. I think when I grow up, I also like to be a director like you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be here. I'm also very pleased to see all of you. I will not dwell on protocol because of time. We took more than 15 minutes to do coffee break as usual. But thank God it's not lunch, because if it were in those days when we go for lunch, you see many of us dozing off and or snoring after some heavy dose of amala or tuwo or whatever. Before we start, can we do one or two quiz competition? I'm sure with my brother Senator Kaura here and the professor, they'll be able to plunk out some prize for whoever wins. Now, what is the gemstone for 30th anniversary? Who knows? There'll be only 3 questions. I know. Gemstone for 30th anniversary, because we are celebrating 30th anniversary of the free zones in Nigeria. Okay, what is the flower for 30th anniversary? Actually, I want ladies to answer this. Any lady that gets this, get a few dollars before leaving here today. Okay, the easiest one of all. What is the color of 30th anniversary? So the MDs will end up keeping their monies in their pocket. Okay, the color. What's the most prominent color here? Sorry? No, green. The most prominent color. That's the color of 30th anniversary. So we must thank the organizers for at least getting that, knowing that that's the color. The flower is lily and the gemstone is pearl. So please keep that in mind. When we come here to celebrate the 40th anniversary and the 50th anniversary, these same questions will be asked. So having laid that as foundation for the ideas that we would like to push forward this afternoon, I want to say that I am not competent to give a lecture to the experts who are seated here, both the investors who are experts in their fields, or the regulators, or the top government officials, immigration, custom, security. They're experts in their field, so who am I to give them a lecture? But we all have ideas about good things, and ideas rule the world. So what I'm going to be talking about is just a few ideas which I want to toss up mainly and primarily to support the desire and the vision of government to use the special economic zones, as it's been done all over the world, as an instrument, as a tool for economic development, and all the good things that follow it, whether employment, investment, empowerment, happiness, and so on and so forth. So we'll toss up these few ideas so that we can see that, one, that the vision is a good vision. It's been done all over the world. That to make it work is hard, but it is doable. And that we must continue to work hard at it. And that with that, more gains will come our way. So, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me, the association, the authorities for putting this together and inviting me to say these few words. I'm also grateful to all my friends here who have been congratulating me for being honored with the opportunity to give this speech. They didn't know that I don't really have a speech. They thought I had a speech. So I hope I will not disappoint you too much. Now, with its over 210 million people, Nigeria has sought ways to improve and drive its economy in a sustainable manner, guaranteeing jobs for its citizens and stimulating economic growth. It is generally well known that special economic zones operational in different parts of the world have brought tremendous growth and economic development to host countries. Not wanting to be left behind, Nigerian government in 1992 enacted the Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority and formally adopted this concept as a policy tool to grow the national economy. SEZs, as we call them today, have since featured prominently in the country's investment facilitation mechanisms. Over the years, it has also featured in the broader, albeit short-term, Nigerian trade and industrial policies, including the Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, as well as the Nigerian Economic Stability Plan. All these are short-term plans which has recognized the importance of the special economic zones regime. A special economic zone is generally a geographically delineated area subject to differentiated regulation and administration from the host country in which it resides for the purpose of attracting foreign direct or other investment in diverse economic activities that could not otherwise be achieved. SEZs are expected to accelerate economic development, create employment and social empowerment, Investment coming either as foreign direct investment or other forms of investment are attracted to the zones by the layer of profit, flexible and liberal fiscal and regulatory regimes, market access, and cheap labor. There are different types of economic zones, special economic zones. You have SEZs, you have FZ, free zone, you have free trade zone, you have export processing zone, free ports, single enterprise zones, industrial parks, tech parks, and so on. And all these nomenclature are at times interchangeable. The intention is, however, ultimately the same: to create an atmosphere where business investment will thrive, jobs created, economic value generated and shared. So governments all over the world and also in Africa have adopted these mechanisms. Using the African Export Zones Organization data, SEZs in Africa, especially in Africa, Nigeria has about 27. Now, these data are neither here nor there because UNCTAD have a different set of data, NEBSA has its own data, and so on and so forth. But the most important thing is that Nigeria is leading in terms of the quantum of SEZs in Africa. But I do not know whether the quantum is material, because I think that quality of efficacy is more important. Take, for instance, Morocco in Northwest Africa has done remarkably well by a well-crafted strategy, policy framework, and implementation of its SEZs, especially in automotive, aeronautical sectors, also in light manufacturing and food processing. Ethiopia is also doing well in garment and textiles. But the current statistics show that in Africa, only about 15% of SEZs are fully operational. And we have the same challenges here. We have many SEZs, not all of them are optimally performing. We can and must therefore do better than this. To be successful and efficacious, therefore, we must craft very clear vision and policy framework, and of course, put in place strong legislative and statutory backing for a critical achievement of the objective of the special economic zones. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have stated that the primary objective of SEZ is to attract FDIs and other investment. This is especially the case in developing countries where almost all SEZs are set up to attract investment in labor-intensive, export-oriented, light manufacturing sectors, whether garment, shoe, manufacturing, electronics, automotive, components, food, and so on. But I want to suggest that we do a rethink of the vision or the mirage of getting all our FDI from outside Africa. We must look inwards to encourage African partnerships and to attract African investors. The platform given to us by the AFCFTA enables us to, on a bilateral and multilateral basis, pool funds for investment in SEZs in Africa. This avenue we must explore and implement assiduously. Sources of FDIs from outside Africa are also looking to sell finished products from the source countries. So why should they assist you to compete with them? Investors like Aliko Dangote of Nigeria seem to have shown that this is possible. Looking inwards is good and will ultimately enable us to develop the culture of investing in ourselves. It is like charity. It begins from home. And I want to underscore this point again. When the MD of NEBSA was making his remarks, he talked about the new engagement with SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And the whole idea of that really is to enable the public, the Nigerian public, and maybe the African public also invest in special economic zones. Because if some of the investors in the special economic zones or prospective investors in the zones are able to source funds from IPOs, from the public, then you see that all of us will actually be able to contribute our own bit into investment into the zones and not necessarily rely or expect or dream or pray for only one source of investment, which would be the FDI. Employment generation. Nigeria, like many other African countries, have a large reserve of low-wage, low-skilled workers. SEZs can, and we must insist that they do absorb this abundant workforce, which will otherwise be underused and unemployed. But there can be no tangible employment without skills. The Nigerian SEZs must prioritize skills development, reskilling, and upskilling for the available abundant workforce. The National Special Economic Zones policy of every country must clearly stipulate and emphasize skills development in terms and conditions of the zone licensing. It can also be mainstreamed into incentives regime where certain incentives are given based on the quantum of staff trained and quality of skills imparted. Such incentives exist, for example, in the Moroccan SEZs. And again, what am I saying? If one of the main reasons for instituting the special economic zones regime is to create jobs, and if you cannot really create employment unless your people have skills, then skills development itself becomes a critical factor in achieving the purpose as well as in the service delivery, so that part of the incentives that the incentives that government offer to investors should include they contributing to skills development so that the people who are the targets can also be properly employed. Now, new sectors of the economy. I want to suggest that we must be audacious in pursuing policy approaches and mechanisms like China did in Shenzhen and Shanghai in the 80s. Their experimental approach, coupled with a reform-oriented mindset, proved very successful. So we must scale up and think out of the box. Indeed, break the box of ideas. At inception, SEZs in Nigeria were programmed mainly and only for manufacturing. Meanwhile, the law establishing the EPZs, as they were called then, made provision for manufacturing as well as services, including banking, insurance, and allied financial services. The situation has remained like this for almost 30 years. What am I saying? Today, the bulk of what we do in the EPZs or in the SEZs is manufacturing. Very little services. Meanwhile, we know that the law mandates that services, commercial services, could be, including banking and financial services, could and should be done in the zones. The MD, as if he had a peek into my paper, had made a point about the challenges being faced by the authority in charge of finance in Nigeria, the central bank. Later in this paper, I have made the point that government agencies must, at least when it comes to special economic zones, they must meet in the middle. They cannot stay like a flat plank on parallel lines that do not meet. They must cooperate, and collaborate, and not compete. They must give support for the laws and policies made by government so that the economy can actually improve. So we must appreciate the management of NEBZA, our host, for initiating new thinking to broaden the perspectives of SEZs in Nigeria. We welcome the plan for the establishment of financial centers, blockchain and digital economy and financial centers, blockchain and digital economy within the special economic zones regime. We must be ready to enter into agreements to explore the possibility of a virtual SEZ and other forms of businesses that will come to empower the special economic zones. In addition, there is need to as a matter of urgency, explore the opportunities afforded by the services industry. Must encourage and facilitate SEZs for the creative industry, the technology sector, the green economy, the circular economy, legal and dispute resolution services. We all know what I mean by the green economy. This is one of the biggest sectors today in the world. The economy that is eco-friendly and environmental friendly has support. So we must open up our SEZs for this. The same thing applies to circular economy, which is mainly sourcing your raw materials from waste. Recycling business is huge. Recycling creates a circular economy whereby the sources of your raw materials is actually somebody else's waste. And this is very important for us to key into. And this should be in addition to specialized processing special economic zones for agricultural commodities, forestry, and extractive industries. Now, I want to emphasize this. I want support of government to the two organizations, both NEBSA and OGEBSA, for purposes of ensuring that our raw materials are processed here before we begin to export them. For God's sake, in the year 2022, why do we still export raw palm oil? The worst one is cocoa. Meanwhile, we all eat chocolate. I mean, then we might as well just do it in Calabar or Kano or wherever. And we'll create more jobs, more opportunities, and of course we'll keep to that value chain, which is big. And of course, whoever invests in it, whether foreign investors or local investors, they will make a lot of profit. And it's good for the economy. So the focus now should be, we should, as a matter of urgency, begin to push for the establishment of these special zones within the country. Now, contribution to economic growth. From 1992 to date, the SEZs in Nigeria have evolved from relatively simple proposition of being enclaves for export processing to an increasingly range of propositions with greater interactions with the customs territory. New SEZs are designed to achieve more specific development objectives and now play more important roles in facilitating national, regional, and local economic development and global economic connections. SEZs have contributed significantly to national development in ways that go beyond their primary policy purposes. The contributions can be categorized as static and dynamic. Aside from the static contribution are FDI to the tune of billions of dollars and billions of naira of direct domestic investment. We also have creation of thousands of jobs and improving economic and export growth. Dynamic contributions include skills upgrading, technology transfer, especially in oil and gas, logistics, export diversification, improved trade efficiency of domestic firms, industrial cluster formation, and integration into the global value chain. However, evidence shows that while the contribution of SEZs vary across countries, depending on strategic policies underpinning the implementation of the SEZ regime, the domestic stage of the country, the development stage of the country, and other peculiar variables, there is a heightened tendency for SEZs to fail amidst a fragile regulatory environment, lack of political will, changing dynamics of international funding, and so on. The SEZs in Nigeria have survived with relatively great performance. For this, I want to congratulate NEBSA and the OGEBSA for their service, commitment, and endless hard work to making the SEZ concept a success in Nigeria. Challenges of regulation and bureaucracy. In most jurisdictions, regulatory bodies tend to seek to compete instead of cooperate and complement the SEZ bodies like NEBSA and OGEBSA. This is not good enough. Partnership and collaboration must be the key driver. The past 2 years, NEBSA has facilitated a rapprochement with Nigerian Customs Service, the security, as well as tax authorities. This is in order to foster cooperation and enable investors operating within the zones to achieve some level of operational efficiency, escape red tape and unnecessary bureaucracy, so as to enjoy ease of doing business. And we want to again underscore this. If government agencies work together so that each one of them can achieve the purpose for which they were set, then it's good for the economy, it's good for the country. We want to see more cooperation, the type of cooperation that has been apparent today when the DCG of Customs spoke. She, with all due respect, she does not speak like a government official, the way we know it in this country. Even the DCG from Customs, from Immigration too, they spoke in a cooperative and collaborative manner. This is what government, and when I say government, I mean the real government, I mean the villa. This is what villa wants, because that's why they make the law. Agencies of government must cooperate, they must collaborate, they must partner to ensure that each one of them achieves its objective, because we are all working for who? We're all working for this country. Now, infrastructure challenges. SEZ successes are tied to having complementary fiscal infrastructure in place. However, since their development will depend on the stage of the host country's economic development, such as the case of Nigeria, innovative methods must be devised to build and upgrade infrastructure. We suggest a public-private partnership mechanism must be adopted, since government alone cannot meet this requirement. Another idea is the issue of National Economic Zones Association. And I wish to encourage African countries, because we have done it here, to adopt the creation of National Economic Zones Associations. This will operate within the African Export Zones framework. Nigerian Economic Zones Association, established about a year ago, is doing a great job of canvassing for and protecting the rights and interests of operators within the zones. So the NESA has given some relative comfort to enterprises operating within the zones in Nigeria. In addition, the association can also, now our suggestion, the association can also complement the zone authority in marketing and promoting business into the zones. So it is not only for the association to protect interests of members, but it must seek to expand the base of membership. They seek to expand opportunities for investors to come in. So they are the best, one of the good organizations that can actually market, that can speak about the regime, the SEZ regime in Nigeria. So we want to encourage NESA to take this as a challenge to help to market and promote business into the zones. This will no doubt create a symbiotic and a beneficial relationship with the authorities, which will also benefit the zones. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk very quickly about raw materials. The zone enterprise can increase benefits from investment in SEZ schemes by taking advantage of abundance of cheap raw materials available in the country. This is more so in respect of agro-commodity processing enterprises. And I'll give you an example of cocoa, for instance. There's also crude oil for processing. Well, Dangote has done a great job there, but what about in the south-south? Now we have the opportunity in Bauchi area. So these zones must also key into the idea of investing in the processing of oil, and as well as also in extractive industries. When we mine in Nigeria, we just mine raw materials and export, whether granite or iron or whatever. But processing under the special economic zones of extractive materials is very profitable. And there's abundance of this in Nigeria. And it is a win-win situation for all of us. So whether in extractive industry like granite, marble processing, and other metal or stone-based minerals, whether in coal, rolled steel, or recycling, and so on. These are raw materials which investment can be put into, and is abundant here in Nigeria. Other measures. We urge that measures be put in place to ensure that incentive benefits to farms must be in accord with Nigeria's SEZ objectives. It is also vital that stated benefits of FDI attraction, job creation, and export performance improvement do not outweigh the equally important dynamic benefit of skills development, technology transfer, export diversification, improved trade efficiency of domestic firms, and the global value chain integration, which are all crucial factors if Nigeria is to effectively harness the potentials which SEZs offer for its economic transformation. So policies that, because first of all, I believe there is an SEZ policy, and I believe this was made around 1992, thereabout, maybe before. The standard practice in Nigeria is that every 7 years, you review a policy. At least that's the international standard. I think it is very important that every other period, beginning from today, and that the agencies can lead the way, that is policy review. Policy review must take place to factor in the critical interest of national economic transformation by bringing in and aligning this interest with the incentives given. You could increase an incentive, you could reduce it. Depends on what is the trajectory of the economic development you want. And this is very important. And the platform is there already, because by the time you take the agency, you take NESA, and you take the other investors, then you have the critical stakeholders to contribute to this policy. Now, I want to quickly talk about the importance of SEZs within the framework of African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, the AFTA is a new development in Africa. Nigeria has signed on. We are part of it. How can special economic zones contribute to the opportunity the AFTA itself opened up for Nigeria, so we can maximize it? And I think the general consensus is that SEZs can actually do a great deal for us in taking substantial part of our entitlement within the African Continental Free Trade Area. So, as regional integration deepens, AFCFTA, SEZs must play a role in deepening industrial and economic development and value within African framework, and this can be done in several ways. I've made some suggestions. One, we want to urge that we establish border and cross-border special economic zones between contiguous countries, and this should be a matter of policy and action. And we believe that the AFCFTA Secretariat can also assist in setting an overarching policy framework for African countries to establish border and cross-border special economic zones. But we in Nigeria, we can push forward and do that. And I think actually the government has that vision already. It's just again that there's no integration. If you recall, some years back, maybe 10, 15 years back, the government set up the Border Towns Economic Development Agency or something like that. And you see, everything comes together. The agency is there. Whether it's doing anything, whether it's have achieved any traction, I doubt, but it is there. So it's just now a matter of seeing how there can be collaboration between NEBZA, OGEBZA, and the Border Towns Development Agencies, so that we can begin to see how every part of this country can gain from the SEZ regime. We have 4 countries surrounding us, and we know the challenges in these areas. Part of the points some pundits make is that there is no empowerment around those borders. That is why we have some challenges. So immediately we are able to step down on the issue of security, which I have no doubt will be done very, very soon. I have no doubt about that. That it's going to cool down very, very soon. That's almost given. We should look at possibility of setting up border special economic zones, as well as cross-border special economic zones, to enable us take full advantage of the African continental free trade area, and the opportunity is open for all of us. As an aside, you recall that Nigeria was a bit reluctant to sign the agreement because we didn't sign. We are not one of the first set of people that didn't sign, and maybe that cost us having a secretariat or whatever, I don't know. But my friends on the African continent, because I happen to do work, I'm on the board of African Chambers of Commerce, I'm on the board of African Business Council, and so on and so forth. My friend will say, what is wrong with you? Why are you refusing to sign? In any case, we don't even want you to sign, because we believe that you will take all the business from us if you do. They are more scared of us. Meanwhile, there was some discussion here that, we will be oppressed by African countries. Nobody can oppress Nigeria, not in the economy. It's not possible. And if you've gone around Africa, you know that. So now, the opportunities that the African continental free trade open for us is for us to take it. And I think that we can use the instrumentality of special economic zones to develop this, make it easier and also much more profitable for our investors as well as for our country. I've made some suggestions about what I think the Secretariat of African Continental Free Trade Area should do. And those suggestions are actually part of my contribution to a discussion that took place in Niger last week about industrialization in Africa and what special economic zones could do and the role AFCFTA should play. I will not bother you with that. I will make the paper available because this is actually something that they have to do. I will make sure that this is done. The representative of UNIDO is here. She invited me for that program, and I'll make sure that she gets a copy of my view about this. But the most important thing is that we have to take the opportunity of the AFCFTA, and we can use the SEZs as part of the framework for that. Finally, the AFCFTA is a multilateral pan-African institution. It is, however, obvious that it can only achieve the African vision and mandate by encouraging and supporting bilateral cooperation among African countries, especially bilateral SEZ cooperation and collaboration. I decided to read out this because I talk about bilateral SEZ cooperation. And this is a mandate, a challenge I want to present before NEBSA and OGEBSA. We must not only seek to establish SEZs in Nigeria and promote export, we will also seek to have bilateral relationship with countries, especially contiguous countries, so that where we need to source maybe raw materials or we need to source intermediate materials, we can do that. And this is very possible. The whole essence is that we will do like this. You understand what I mean? We will push our weight and create opportunities for our country, for development, and also even support our neighbors. Because if we patronize their raw materials to manufacture at our border SEZs, they will be engaged too, while we also engage. So going forward, and with your kind permission, I want to ask this question. What policies should we be putting in place now to enable our SEZs to continue to sustain our economic development? I will suggest the following. We suggest that as a matter of continuous actionable policy. Ease of doing business must be institutionalized to improve business environment and reduce bureaucratic red tape. And one aspect of the ease of doing business within the framework of SEZs is the point that I've been made today. Allow the agencies set up by law, allow them to comply with their law. Do not block their way. Let them do their job. The government has signed a law that says that the SEZ should be, the authority should be a one-stop shop. Allow it to operate. It's as simple as that. Permit it to operate so that we can realize the vision of government. Second, the world is running a digital system now. The world is running a digital system now, and we dare not lag behind. COVID-19 pandemic showed this very graphically. Our government and commercial processes must therefore be digitalized. I'm happy that I think one of the speakers, I don't know whether it's MD of NEBSA, talk about having e-NEBSA or something like that. You see, it makes work easier, it makes it efficient, and many government agents are also doing that now. So we must fully embrace digitalization, and this is very important. 3, we must also strengthen the legal and policy frameworks governing SEZs to make SEZs more attractive to investors and ensure adequate protection of investment. We need to make SEZ more attractive. What means that whatever we're doing now, we should seek to add to it. Rather than reducing the incentive, we should increase it, because the demand for investment is very high and everybody is seeking it. So you have to be attractive, like a pretty lady, to draw attention. So we have to be attractive to seek attention for this, and this is very possible. And I want to challenge the authorities, because when I looked at the NEBSA Act, for instance, the law establishing NEBSA gives the board and the minister power to expand the incentives. It gives them power to expand incentives. So while they are reticent, while they are slow doing it, I am not clear yet, but it gives them power. It also gives them dynamism. They should look at it and give what is they deem appropriate in the circumstance to attract opportunity. Because you look for wealth. It hardly looks for you. The fourth point I want to make is, and this is very, very important. Now, we know that SEZs are critical economic development tool and should not continue to stand alone like a parallel line. It must be mainstreamed into the broader economic process policies and development plans of the government. That is, we make national plans. Though some people will ask me, what's our recent national plan? But I know as a fact, because I was on the board recently that was crafting a 20-year plan for Nigeria, development plan. SEZs, as a tool for industrial and economic development, must be mainstreamed into the broad national plan at all times. The issue must go beyond budget. And we budget 10 naira for Ogebza or for no. They must mainstream the policy of SEZ into the national, overarching national plan, so that at all times, everybody will be on board. So it will not be strange. For instance, in fact, you will not see NDLA or civil defense or anybody says we want to do something within the zone, where you know that the law does not allow you to do that. Where you know that you will go through the agency created by government to do this, and so on and so forth, or that the state government will come to the zones to collect tax. When that's the whole essence of the zone is to make sure they don't come there in the first place. Or the local government will want to ask for sticker, or whatever it is they charge, So if you mainstream the national, the special economic zones policy into the overarching national development plan and sensitize everybody about this, it will make our SEZs more attractive and enable them do the work which they were set up to do. The fifth point is the issue of creating new sectors, encouraging new sectors. We must apply a new way of thinking to promote new sectors of economic ecosystem, like digital economy, green economy, circular economy, creative economy. Now, the digital economy and the creative economy needs to be specially mentioned. And I've already, with hope and prayer, given pass mark to NEBSA, for instance, for thinking about bringing in blockchain and doing virtual special economic zone, which I think they must do in any case, because the world will not wait for you. Technology is driving the world now. And you can see every day, Nigerians are doing great things. But a lot of it is being done in Kenya and South Africa and the US. We need to open the door for them here. From what we are told, now in Silicon Valley, quite a number of Nigerian enterprises are there. It's a free zone. So why can't we open the door for them? We must do it. The second one is the creative industry. Creative industry includes, think about it, music, Nollywood, Kannywood, they all belong to us. It's huge. Do you know how well our boys are doing now internationally in music? And so on and so forth. And many countries are key into that to create opportunities for them to prosper, to operate within zones where nobody will disturb them. Other than that, they end up staying abroad and the advantages will be taken over there. So these two sectors are so critical. And whatever the NEBSA or GEBSA and other and government agencies need to do, they have to ensure that they allow these new sectors to be mainstreamed into the special economic zones. Finally, we must adopt effective monetary and fiscal policies to facilitate seamless efficiency in financial transactions and help curb illicit financial flows through the special economic zones. I will take that again. Effective monetary and fiscal policies to facilitate seamless efficiency in financial transactions. If we have the banking facilities within the zone, it will be monitored within that zone. And the law has already provided for it. I think the MD made that point, and this should have been done 30 years ago. It can still be done today. So we'll call on the central bank and the officials involved to do whatever it is they can to ensure that this aspect of services is provided within the special economic zones. It will help this country. And of course, let me just underscore the fact that Security and Exchange Commission is already on this. I've been talking to them about this, and they are ready to give maximum support for this. If SEC can do that, CBN should be doing it. Now, the last word. You permit me, because I wanted to quote two Chinese leaders who were talking about Shenzhen. It's just three lines, so it won't take time. The first is Deng Xiaoping in 1993. He said, 8 years have passed. This time, I come to see that Shenzhen, Suzhou, and some other localities have undergone rapid development. It is really out of my expectations. After seeing all this, I've got enhanced confidence. He was talking in 1993. I think they started this project in about 8 years earlier. Then, the current president, Xi Jinping, in 2020 said, Shenzhen has completed a journey within 40 years that will have taken metropolises in other countries around 100 years to finish. This is a miracle created by Chinese people in the history of world development. My message to you, let us create our own miracle. I thank you all for your kind attention. God bless you.